Would you rather never see an animal ever again, or have a 70% chance of getting attacked by any animal you see? That's good. That's good. I'm I'm gonna have to go 70% chance of getting attacked by any animal I see because I love my cats. I don't think I could go without my cats. I mean, even when I no longer have my current cats, I know for a fact that I'm gonna get more cats in the future. I'm gonna become like a crazy cat guy and just get so many cats. So I'm going to have to go with a 70% chance of getting attacked by any animal I ever see. That doesn't seem right. I mean, going to the zoo, I don't think I could ever go to the zoo ever again. And also maybe never like go to a park, I guess, because if I get attacked by a squirrel with rabies, I don't know I think we have rabies in the UK. I don't know why I question that. That is definitely a thing. Um, but yeah, I guess I'd never be able to go to a park because there's so many dogs and just animals everywhere. Animals, does that include like spiders? Are spiders going to attack me? Because, I mean, tiny little spiders, they're not going to do anything. Can like little spiders actually hurt you in any way? Can they bite you? Hang on, let's search this up. Like daddy long legs. Daddy long legs bite. They can bite, but it is typically a mild sting with no long-lasting effects. Okay, well that's nice to know. Daddy long legs can bite. Interesting. I didn't know that. So you learn something new every day. Hey everyone, welcome to the FMPod. I am FMP, also known as Ben. Here creating a podcast. I have not done one of these. Actually, it wasn't that long ago. I think it was November, maybe. So 4 months. It's been 4 months, but that's okay. I'm here now, and I am here to talk about London because recently I've been missing home. Okay, I am a Londoner. For all of my life, apart from the past 6 months, I have lived in London. I've moved around a little bit, but I've stayed in Greater London, the borough. I'm not a true Londoner. I've never stayed anywhere central, really, but I have lived in London my whole life. And, I consider myself a Londoner. I've been at university for 6 months. Every time I introduce myself, I say, I am from London, because no, I am from London. There are some people who say they're from London but aren't actually from London. They're from outside of London. But it's sometimes it is just easier to say that you're from London when you're actually from Watford, or I guess no, Watford definitely counts as I'm from London, but you're not actually from London, sort of thing. What other places can you do that? Epping, I suppose. I'm not sure you could get away with Reading. I think those are probably some big ones. I'm just trying to think further out on the tube map. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. But yeah, I am very much a Londoner. What does it mean to be a Londoner? Well, for me, all I need to be is living in London for me to be a Londoner. I have a southern British accent. I say grass. I say I have an accent, all right? This is my Londoner accent. I will occasionally not pronounce my T's. Actually, it's becoming more prevalent that I don't pronounce my T's anymore. In it, I that is part of my dialect sometimes, mate. I have a very British sort of personality, or very Londoner personality, and I miss London. I fucking love the city that I grew up in, and it's been quite hard. I mean, sure, a lot of that comes from the fact that I do miss being with my family, but also there is a part of it that is me missing the city of London. Not the city of London, the London city. Yeah, that can get confusing. Because I'm not sure if you've noticed, but my main channel is very much London orientated. I am a big fan, big thumbs up for the London Underground. I've actually got a tube map right next to me at all times. I don't know why this is May 2023. There's been one recently. Okay. What was I saying? London. I need a co-host, man. Podcasting by yourself is very hard sometimes because I can just trail off and not remember what I was talking about at all. But yeah, I mean, London is very much part of my online identity. I've recently started Never Been To, which is a series where I'm going to go to places in London that are, commonly cited as big tourist destinations that I've just never bothered to go to because I'm not a tourist. Primrose Hill being the first episode. I've also got many others, or I don't know, I've got a list of about 9 places currently that I'm going to go to once I get back during the Easter, or I won't get to all 9 of them. I've got other videos to do when I get back, alongside doing uni work and, keeping up with my friends. Guys, being an adult is so hard. That could be another topic for another podcast, being an adult. I mean, I'm barely an adult. I'm really not an adult, but I am somewhat. I am legally an adult, so that's all I need, really. But yeah, I mean, I have been at uni for 6 months. I've gone back for 1 month. I went back for a month during Christmas. I've been back for a few weekends since then, but most of the past 6 months has me been at university, which is not in London, if that isn't obvious. And yeah, I have big FOMO, I guess. I can go back whenever I like, really. The train is not that far, so it's not too bad to go back, but I just don't because that's money. What was I talking? I was talking about YouTube content as well. I'm so sorry, guys. YouTube content. I mean, I like the London Underground, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so obsessed with it. But also London as a whole. I think I'm not really a train guy. I sometimes think I'm kind of a train. I'm not really. I'm a London Underground guy more than anything. And a TFL guy. I guess I'm a TFL guy. Not actually a train guy, because I don't really care for most other trains. I would like to go to the metro services elsewhere in the UK and other countries. That's going to happen later this year. But more than anything, I think I am a TFL guy. I love the London Underground. I can enjoy a London bus. The DLR, not part of the Underground. DLR, trams, Elizabeth Line, Overground, I guess. Overground. I don't know why I said I guess Overground. Overground, yes, also. And the cable car. Oh my god, guys, the cable car. But London's great. I don't know what else to say. But I thought for this podcast I would go over a few stories, fun stories from the past year or so that I've experienced in London, being out by myself, being out with friends, that I have just remembered and has sort of stuck in my mind as memorable, very London experiences. So the first one was a very nice memory. When I was filming my Primrose Hill video, once I got to the top of the hill, there was some guy recording a music video for some sort of drill rap music video. Very stereotypical music. I wouldn't be able to discern the difference between that and like a Skepta song. It's not really my kind of thing, but it was quite funny actually, because I once I got to the top of the hill, he was there recording some things. Obviously, I was also there with my camera at the time. He sort of noticed me, and he had like a full tripod. I guess the shot was him with London in the background, and he had like a proper crew behind him as well. Or not a proper crew, but a couple of his mates were there behind the camera. And once he stopped, his whole demeanour changed. And I thought it was quite funny, because he went from like rapping about Glocks and stabbing people to saying, "Oh, mate, did you get that? That was sick, wasn't it?" And I thought that was very funny. And it just goes to show, those people aren't scary. They try to be scary, but they are just regular humans, just like the rest of us. And I thought that was quite a funny moment. And after that, I went down Primrose Hill and onto the Primrose Hill High Street. I guess it's not really a high street. Yes, it's sort of a high street with a bunch of shops, and it was very quaint. I very much enjoyed it. It's sort of Notting Hill vibes, if you've ever seen that film with Hugh Grant. Very Richard Curtis sort of theme, I guess. I felt like I was in a Richard Curtis film. And I saw a bookshop, and I was like, why not? So I went into the bookshop and I bought a book. I never do this, by the way. I don't read books. I don't buy books. I've never really seen the point, because I just don't read. I'm very much a visual person, and I find it very difficult to just sit down and read books. But I thought, may as well. I'm here. I'm feeling the vibes. Let's buy a book. So I went in, and it was so lovely. It was such a nice experience. The person behind the counter was very nice, recommended me a book, and I was like, okay, I'll just buy this then. And it was crazy. I just did that. I don't know. I don't know what it was. It was a very memorable experience. Oh, fuck. But yeah, I thought that was a very lovely story that I could share with you to, pick you up, give you a little lift up. I thought it was a very nice experience, a very authentic London experience that I don't really do often. I need to probably not force those kinds of things, but sometimes just go out of my way to maybe do something I wouldn't normally do, because that was a very fun thing for me to do, and I told people about it. I was excited that happened, because I was just like, wow, this is just something I can do as a human in this world. I don't know. I'm getting philosophical now. Let's talk about angry people on trains. So, I think it was for GeoGuessr Decides My Tube Journey 3. Yes, it was. And I was on a train just coming out of London Bridge. I believe it was a southern train, and I was headed to Tulse Hill, I think. Yes. All right. I was headed to Tulse Hill on a southern train coming out of London Bridge. And there was a guy who got on with a bike, and he was sitting or standing by the doors with his bike. We didn't go through any tunnels, so obviously that's allowed. You can bring your bike onto a train. And he was there, and he just had his bike normally. And then another guy with another bike came on. And now this other guy, we'll call this guy Greg. The other guy, we'll call him Paul. So Greg gets on, and I think there was probably some mental issues there, but he got on with his bike, Greg. And he gets on, and Paul's bike is kind of a little bit in the way. So Greg thinks it's a good idea to go, "Get your fucking bike out the way!" Shouting, the whole train can hear, "Get your fucking bike out the way!" And Paul's like, "I'm so sorry, mate. He moved his bike slightly," and now Greg is pissed off, right? Greg is very much a angry man. I mean, he was a pretty big guy, and the whole like carriage is now aware of this man's presence, and they don't want to have to do anything with him. Like, they do not want to deal with this man. So people start like moving further along the carriage away from the set of doors where he has his bike. Now the other guy, Paul, is like obviously has to stay there because he's now not only got his bike there, so he needs to stay, but also trapped because Greg is like standing there right in the middle of like that box where you have the doors, and he's sort of right smack in the middle. Paul's off to the side a little bit, so he's very much trapped by Greg, and Greg is very angry, man. And eventually Paul has to get off. I think it was like at Dulwich or something, one of the Dulwiches, northeast, I don't know. And he says, "Oh, excuse me, mate, I need to get off now." And he says, "You better not fucking get on this train ever again!" Still shouting at the top of his voice. And he's like, okay. And Paul gets off. Now, Greg is still very, very angry. So once we get to Tulse Hill, I need to get off, and Greg is also getting off. But in front of me, getting off, there is this sort of elderly woman who gets up, from a priority seat, and she goes towards the doors, and Greg goes, "No one come any fucking closer." Right? To this elderly woman. She was at least 80, probably older, walking stick, very frail, and I mean, I don't believe she said anything in that moment, but she looks terrified, and Greg eventually gets off. Like most of the carriage is getting off at the other doors, like at the other end, but I'm like close enough to the doors that it would be really weird for me to go all the way, right? All the way to the other doors just to get off. So I get off of the same doors as Greg, but the elderly woman is in front of me, and he takes ages to get his bike off the train, and I almost didn't get off at that station because he was taking so long. And the elderly woman eventually gets off and just turns to me and she says, "He was quite rude." And I'm never going to forget that, because that's so stupid. Like, the man was shouting at this 80-plus-year-old woman to like get away from him because he was getting his bike off of the train. And she goes, "That was quite rude." And I'm like, yeah, it was quite rude. Oh, that is one of my favourite stories ever, just because it was so insane. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit scared. I was scared for like people's health and safety at that time. I mean, I don't think he would have actually lashed out at anyone, but he could have. He definitely had the right anger within him to start lashing out at people. But anyway, that was Angry Dulwich Man. That's how I remember him. And yeah, that was an experience. I've never brought it up before, and I think it's just a very funny story, and also quite a scary story at the same time. It happens a lot in London. This sort of loud, shouty, possibly drunk, possibly drugged up people, just everywhere in London, and you just sort of get used to it. But that is one that really sticks out to me as a particularly memorable moment. But yeah, that was Angry Dulwich Man. What else? What else have I got written down here? Oh my goodness. Okay. So, this is actually quite recent. This is January. This is like start of January this year. And Alex, Charlie, and I want to go into London. We want to do something because I'm going back to uni in a few days. Alex is going back to uni in a few days, so we think, let's go do something. You know, I believe it was a Tuesday or something. It doesn't really matter. And we think, let's go into London for a few drinks and, you know, see where the night takes us. So we decide to go to Highbury and Islington. And now, if you've ever been to Highbury and Islington Station, or you've ever left Highbury and Islington Station, there is a pub right outside, and you're never going to forget the name because it is the Famous Cock. I mean, what a name for a pub. So, we've never been into the Famous Cock before, but we all know it because it's the Famous Cock. I went there I went to that area for my birthday last year, and we thought it was a very funny name. But we decided to go into the Famous Cock because we'd never been in there, and we think, you know, let's start drinking there, then we can go elsewhere if we want to afterwards, sort of like a mini pub crawl, if you will. So yeah, we go in, we buy some drinks, we sit down, and then this guy comes up to us, and he's like, "Hello lads, would you like to see some comedy tonight?" And we all sort of look at each other and think, yeah, okay. You know, I've never been to a comedy gig. I don't think any of us had ever been to a comedy gig before. So we were like, yeah, I mean, sure, let's go to it. Let's go see what this is about. And he says, right, okay, go down to the basement in, like, I don't know, it was like 10, 20 minutes time, and we'll see you there. So we do. We go down into the basement, or not the basement, but like there's a lower floor. I guess it is the basement, isn't it? We go down, and we are the only people there, apart from the event organizer and then the 5 comedians who are there. And we think, what the fuck have we gotten ourselves into? Let's hope more people arrive. So Alex orders a drink. We cannot leave anymore because Alex now has a drink. We've also started talking to the event organizer, and she's like, "Oh, thanks so much for coming. We would feel awful at this point if we left." So now we're stuck. We're stuck at a comedy night. We have no idea how this is going to go. This is a little bit weird. It's a very strange experience. I go off to the toilet, and then it starts. Or not quite starts, but everyone's like sat down by the time I get out. And lo and behold, it's just us 3. We are the only 3. We are the only audience members, apart from the 5 comics sat behind us. But obviously they're going to be doing their material, and we didn't realise this, but apparently this was not really a comedy gig, more of I'm going to test my material on like a small audience to see how well it goes. That's sort of more what it was, not how it was advertised to us. But, I mean, we went along with it, alright? The first guy, oh my god, the first guy was this sort of older gentleman, if you will, who, I don't know what his deal was, because he started looking at, like, the table, saying, "Oh, it's quite a nice place here." I thought it was going to lead to, like, a joke or something. It didn't. He was just stalling for time. He also made some very strange jokes. I really don't know what his deal was. He was like 60 or something. It was very odd. And then the second guy, what was the second guy? Oh, second guy was very much sort of more Gen Z humor, sort of I'm gonna kill myself kind of depraving sort of humour. Very much Alex's sort of comedy, or Alex's style of comedy. So that went down a little bit better. The third guy was also quite a young guy, but less of self-deprecation humour and more of actual comedy. The fourth guy was very good, and the fifth guy was also very good. So it started off very rough, and by the fourth guy, I think 2 other people joined us. They came down, which was great. But we kind of felt like we had to laugh because we were the only people in the audience for quite a while. I mean, we were laughing less than the comedians behind us. But we kind of like, maybe, I don't know, I've definitely felt like I was forcing a smile half the time. I mean, some of the jokes were quite funny. But the other half, it was just testing material. I think they can tell when you're faking a laugh or a smile. But yeah, that was a very strange experience. But definitely the last 2 guys were sort of more professional. You could tell that they were much more experienced in the game. They had more like stage presence, I guess. Oh yeah, what the first guy had a harmonica. The old guy had a fucking harmonica. he had a harmonica. What? He was like, he made a joke or something and then just played the harmonica. That was probably the funniest thing he did because it was so random and out of nowhere. That was like, what is going on? Anyway, that was certainly an experience, and that is something I doubt I will ever forget. But it was the rest of the night was great. We went to Spoons afterwards, and don't think I'm ever going to forget that. I really don't think I will ever forget that that moment. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed my little stories. I hope you enjoyed me talking about London. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching my little avatar spin around a little bit. And yeah, I will see you whenever I decide to make another podcast. I've definitely got some ideas for other podcasts. Also, I want to do a podcast about university as a whole because I keep, mentioning it. I've definitely mentioned university a few times in this podcast and in other videos. Yeah, but I want to sort of wait until I finish my first year, which is in 2 months actually. It's not that far away. And then I'll do like a full podcast about my whole experience of the first year of university. What you should prepare for. If you're going to university, I might be able to give a few tips. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be here when I feel like making another podcast. Goodbye.